So this is a look at the tabs in Rise 360. So I've restyled these a bit, and I'm using a tool called Stylus browser add-on. It lets me preview styles, CSS that I'm going to turn into my custom theme. But so without my custom styles, this was as close as I could get with the built-in tools. So if I go, you can do kind of a dark mode with your tabs in Rise. And the key, I just found this, I didn't notice it before. If you turn off the use white background, that'll make it more of an entire dark mode look and feel, which I like. But it wasn't, all it does is pick a lighter shade of your background color. So those, and I'm not crazy about the outlines of around the tabs and the content area. So I just did like a whole gradient effect. And if you want to look at, so I give this code out. If you go to Rise 360, I've got all the CSS you can add. And so the main gradient you can see here. So let's see. I didn't comment everything that I'm using, but you can see I already set up my my color variables, and you can see just with the tabs I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could easily have more, but one of the first things I show you in my course is how to set up all your color variables, and these are going to be coming usually directly from your branding guidelines. But you can see, and by default, as you probably know, Rise only gives you one color, the theme color, to work with. But you can see you can easily start setting up many colors. And then the gradient right here, it's actually using my color variables. So I called it color G1 and then G2. And then the linear gradient is at 135 degrees. So you can kind of play around with the angle of the gradient. I'll put it back to 135 degrees there. Reset to the default styling of the tabs block, because there's a couple things we're going to look at. One of them I've seen a few posts in the forum eLearning Heroes about the font size of the tab headings. And also, I can see just visually, the font looks a little different. These are my regular paragraphs above, just a regular text block. And then if you look at the paragraph inside the tabs, different font. It looks like a different font entirely. It's actually just the font size and the font weight. That's what's making it look weird. But also the line height and also the margin below each paragraph is up. These are actually two different paragraphs. You can see we need a space just to make it look like the paragraphs up here. And this one, so this content, the paragraphs look a little better, just like it has that space in between, which is supposed to. It's actually because there's a empty empty paragraph tag. So it looks okay, but it's very different from the regular paragraph. So we have a really weird inconsistency that we can debug here. But first, let's just do something real quick with the tab headings. Let's see what's going on there. If I look at the tab headings, so this is a button element, and it's actually using the heading font. So if you've this theme, I've actually specified Enter to be the heading and the body. But if you specified a different heading font, the tab headings is going to inherit the heading font that you specified, which is fine. I think that makes sense. That's fine. It is a heading of some kind, but we have like a ton of other CSS rules on these tab headings. It's kind of uncommon in Rise to have so many. It actually looks like when they were converting whatever the approved design was from Figma or whatever design application they were using, looks like they just dumped the entire contents from the design application and applied it instead of using just some of the existing design system. It's really not inheriting much from the design system. But one thing people have been pointing out in the forum, eLearning Heroes, is the font size and the all caps. You can see right here the text transform uppercase. If I turn that off, we just have regular text. So if you're creating a custom theme component for your course, not advised to go into the existing CSS that gets exported from your course, but we can write a new style that gets inherited to pick up new style rules. And really what we're going to do is kind of reset that font size to match the rest of our course, and get rid of that text transform uppercase. I mean, that probably goes against your branding guidelines anyway. So this is a good one to make a new theme component for. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my stylus plugin, free plugin. I'm in Firefox right now. You can get that for Chrome also. But I'm going to make a new style rule, and I'm going to call it Rise Tabs Typography. You can call it fonts, but I'm so sophisticated, I'm going to call it typography. And it's going to apply to rise.articulate.com. Good. And if we do just a little debugging, let me go back into my browser developer tools. If I find the button element, this is it. Blocks, tabs, header, item. I love the classes they use, that Articulate uses for the HTML. It's very plain. It makes a lot of sense. If you're learning CSS, this is a good platform to be learning on, just because their HTML is usually very, very good. And they like Rise. I love Rise. It gives you like a very good starting point for your course. I wouldn't call it a complete design system, but we're looking at what the design they're giving us, and we're finding maybe it doesn't quite align with my organization's branding guidelines. So that's what we're going to do. Maybe just a couple typography tweaks here and there. So this is it: blocks, tabs, header item. And when I write my styles, so I'm just going to copy that in there. Oops, each class just gets one dot at the beginning. What I do, I've been prefixing all my classes with app. So this makes it more specific than the existing CSS that comes with your exported Rise course. And all I'm doing here with the Stylus plugin, I'm just previewing. I'm not actually making changes to the CSS in the course. This is just something I'm previewing with my browser. So just to make sure my CSS is getting picked up, I'm just going to write border 2px solid red. Boom. Oops. Red. There we go. So if I was going to change the background color or the border of my tab headings, I know that I've got the correct selector now. But all I really want to do is override some of the styles that Rise is giving us. Primarily the text transform. So right now it's text transform uppercase. I'm just going to reset that. I don't want all caps. Someone mentioned in the forum that it was possibly an accessibility issue. I kind of doubt that. Or maybe. But if it goes against your organization's branding guidelines, your typography guidelines, well, you may need to fix it. So I'm going to do text transform, and I'm just going to instead of uppercase, I'm just going to set that to on set, and there we go. And you can see it. And I didn't even hit save. By the way, in Stylus, it's doing live edits. I did not even hit save. I'll hit save now because I want to keep that change. And actually, maybe now I'll start to clean up my CSS here. And now you can see exactly how small that font size is. And if you look at the font size coming from Rise, 1.2 rem units. Okay, if you ever see rem units, and Rise uses those a lot, 1.2 rem, you probably have no clue what that means. So relative M units or root M units, it's all based on like the font size of the root of the document, which happens to be set to 10 pixels, very small. It's kind of an old standard. I'm not sure why people still use it. But it's the system that's in place. Rise will probably never change it. But if you see 1.2 rem, all you need to do is remove that that decimal. So you get 12. It's 12 pixels. That's why it looks so small. So anytime you see rem, just get rid of the decimal. That's the pixel size that's rendered in your browser. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do font size, and I think basically most of our fonts are like 16 or 17 pixel size. So it seems like we should probably carry that through to the. This is a heading element according to Rise. So I could do. Let's do 1.6 REM. That's going to be 16 pixels. Looks kind of big now. So I can see why they kind of wanted to make that smaller. But the other thing that's making it look so big now is the letter spacing. So if we do letter spacing, and I just want to reset it. We could set it to 0px. I assume that's going to be the default, but letter spacing, you could just set it to be inherit, which is going to use whatever the parent element is. Sometimes I like to do inherit if I'm going to just kind of reset to whatever, the elements around it are already inheriting. Either is going to work 0 or inherit. Or we could do unset also, I think. Unset, yeah. Let's do unset. That works. So 16 pixels for the tab headings. It still looks maybe a little big. I'll just go back to 15 pixels. And this is like kind of a special use case. The tab headings doesn't need to directly match my other headings, so maybe I'll use a new font size here. And really, we don't see too many variables being used in the block header item by Rise. This is all Rise's, like the default CSS coming from the theme. Okay, so we've got kind of the border stuff inheriting colors. We see colors being used from their design system in the font, but all this other stuff, in my opinion, it should really be reusing other styles that have that are being used in other blocks. But it's just odd to see so many style rules being applied to it all in their CSS. Like the whole idea behind cascading style sheets CSS is you can store values in your style sheet and it gets inherited across various elements, so you can reuse the same styles and keep things consistent across your whole design system. So it's kind of odd to see so many rules being applied to this specific element instead of being shared and reused with what I'm sure there are other elements in Rise that use these sizes, font weight, line height, everything, but they're all kind of like doing it one-off just for this one item, which is a bit strange. But with a few lines of CSS, we can kind of reset that, get it back in line with whatever your organization's branding guidelines call for. Okay, and that I can turn that into a theme component. Hit save right there. The other thing. So we can see our paragraphs, regular text paragraphs. Let's take a look. Like the font. Looks like I'm using the wrong font inside the tab content area. It's actually this is still the correct font. Font family is correct. But if we look at where are we inheriting the Okay, it's coming from the blogs tab's content. The reason my fonts look a little jacked up, this is a regular text element or text block, and I've not modified the fonts at all. That's the default. We see nice generous spacing between paragraphs. Line height looks good. Here's what's going on. The font looks wrong because Rise is specifying a font weight of 300, which is thinner than the regular, which is going to be 400 for most fonts. So font weight 300. So if I'm just going to remove that here just to preview. It's starting to look a little better. So blogs, tabs, content. So in my style, I'm going to start out with the same parent element to make sure it's going to be more specific than the Rise exported CSS. And then I'm going to do, just need one dot there. Blogs, tab, content, and then P stands for paragraph. And yeah, I'm going to write font weight. And again, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm going to do font weight normal, which you can see it made it just slightly darker. I mean, thicker, but it's getting a little more in line with my default, which I can see above. The other thing is going to be the line height of these paragraphs. It's a bit big. It looks like it's like double spaced almost, but line height looks like at least 2. Should be like 2 about. And again, the fonts, I think we're going to have to, the font size, I think 1.7 REM is 17 pixels is like the default for regular paragraphs. So you can see we're getting a little quicker, but an obvious thing you'll notice between these are actually 2 different paragraphs. These are 2 paragraphs. Huge space in between. And this is, I would call this kind of a bug. Just it's a very inconsistent use of, whatever they were trying to use as a design system. But there's no margin bottom. And this happens when you're using a CSS reset and they only applied the margin bottom to certain paragraphs. They should have applied it to all the paragraphs so we have no margin bottom. But what people have been doing since the beginning of Rise, I'll show you what they've been doing. They've been inserting empty paragraphs. So that's a paragraph right there. I can type in it. So people have been just adding empty paragraphs, which it makes it look a little more consistent. But just from an HTML perspective, very messy. If you have a design system, the design system is to avoid weird inconsistencies like that. So in this middle tab, I don't have any empty paragraph. You generally never want to use empty paragraphs to like even out your spacing. So I'm also going to set a margin bottom on my paragraphs, which are inside my blocks or inside my tab content. So I'm just going to margin bottom 1 REM, something like that. Although, geez, could even go like 2, just to kind of even it out. I could measure exactly what it is up there, but the tabs tabs are like a slightly different UI because it is constrained kind of within like the borders of the tabs UI. So it doesn't necessarily have to match exactly, but I think you can see now my paragraphs within my tabs look a little more like the rest of my regular paragraphs that you'll find throughout my course. Remember to hit save occasionally. So I'll probably go ahead and use that to convert to my theme component, which gets added as CSS. If you don't know how to properly create a theme component, I do have videos on that. Now you'll remember I was using empty paragraphs to even out the spacing in my last tab here, but I've just fixed like that empty paragraph thing. So what do you think is going to happen to my last tab where it looked fine before? I just fixed it basically with the CSS. If I go to that last tab, boom, I've got double the space. Way too much space. I did not plan for that. So, and I can fix that now, but this is why Rise will probably never fix this issue. People have been using if you've been using the tabbed content block in Rise for the past, 5, 6, 7 years, you are probably using the double space method just to get some decent spacing in between your paragraphs. So if Rise fixed their design system today, people are going to start logging in and noticing these huge extra spaces, and they'll probably start sending in support tickets to Rise saying, hey, there's something wrong with my course. Now, if it's just one course, no big deal. But some of these organizations have hundreds of courses. So imagine you've got 100 courses, and now today someone was doing a little QA in your courses, and maybe 20 out of the 100 have this weird double spacing problem, which happened after Rise updated their design system. Rise does not like these changes in the visual, anything that affects the visuals, the UI at all. They do not prioritize those items because people have been using it a certain way for years and years and years, creating hundreds of courses. I mean, think about all the courses all together, hundreds of thousands, possibly. I don't even know how many courses exist. But when people log back in to their, it's a cloud-based system, and their cloud-based system has already, all of a sudden updated their CSS. It's not good. So Rise does not like making any visual updates to existing courses, but they will prioritize if it's an actual bug. I mean, this is kind of subjective. If it's an actual bug throwing an error, they will prioritize that. Also, they will prioritize new functionality. You remember when they rolled out the new AI blocks? That's new stuff. It does not, for the most part, affect the old content that people have in their existing courses from years and years ago. So the new stuff, they prioritize working on the new functionality, new blocks. But once they implement and launch a block, most of these were, launched 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'm not really sure. They do not want to make any updates to these. But if I wanted to fix it, if I'm fixing this in my own system, okay, the first tab looks fine, second tab looks fine. I had previously added an empty paragraph in this one. Boom, all I have to do is delete it, and it looks good again. But if Rise makes this fix tomorrow, I mean, they won't. They never will. First of all, they'd be admitting that they made an error to their design system from years and years ago. Nobody on the team wants to do that. Also, they don't want to have an influx of people complaining about these huge spaces in 20 of their 100 courses. Because each time they go and update one of their older courses and publish it, it's going to inherit this new problem, even though it's a fix. They probably should fix this issue with the empty paragraphs, it's just kind of a messy thing in HTML. If you've designed a website, you don't want to have empty paragraphs holding place for padding or margin. So it's just kind of a bad look. I hope they will fix it. It's just kind of a DevOps problem that they're going to have to figure out if they're going to prioritize it. My guess is that they probably won't. But okay, this video went a little longer than I expected, but with just a few lines of CSS for my tabs header items, put it back in line with my branding guidelines, as well as the tabs content. Got regular paragraphs and some line height again. And there's a couple other things. I may have to put this in a different video. You'll notice the left margin, generally, just kind of a traditional typesetting thing. Your left margin of all your text, ideally you want that to be lined up. But we can see we've got at least, looks like 30 pixel difference between the left margin of my tabs text and my regular text. We can add, and I may be getting a little nitpicky, but the tabs UI, it does constrain my text a little bit. I think that's maybe why Rise made the font size smaller and the font weight smaller. But on a big monitor, we've got plenty of room, so we could actually realign our left margin so all our text actually lines up. But again, that's a bit nitpicky. Anyway, this video's gone on probably too long. Thanks for tuning in. I am launching a course very soon about learning CSS. Now is a very good time to be adding a technical skill to your instructional design CV. So check out theme-360.com. That's where I put all my code samples, and you can follow along with the new themes that I'm creating. Thank you.